So, g'day everyone, welcome back to Geek. So, my weekly report on news and rumours in the triathlon world and multisport. And this week, what have we got? Well, first of all, last week I touched on why are triathletes going so fast. What I mean is, in Ironman particularly, if you're not going sort of 7:30, 7:40 nowadays, you've got no chance of winning. And someone came up with a really good point from last week's video. So Steve, thanks for commenting. But what he said was, and this makes a lot of sense, is kids now start sport as triathletes, where previously they tend to cross over from another sport. So you might get a swimmer or maybe a runner who decides to give triathlon a go. But now kids are growing up watching triathlon and wanting to be triathletes. So they start as juniors as triathletes. And maybe we're seeing that generation coming through now into the pro ranks. But that was a very good point. Maybe that is part of the reason why they're going quicker, because they're training from kids as triathletes versus training as a swimmer and then coming over to it or something like that. So Steve, thanks mate, that was a very good point. And I agree completely. Bikes, so there's a new bike, it's a Cannondale. And you can Google it, but the new Cannondale Super 6, which is exciting. Companies always bring out new bikes. But the interesting thing is, this new Cannondale is a threaded bottom bracket. Now the reason I bring that up is the old press fit, where you just push the bearing cups in, was actually designed by Cannondale. They used what was called the BB30, and they invented that 20 plus years ago. And then all other manufacturers tend to adopt it. Not necessarily the BB30, but a version of. Yet now everyone's going back to threaded, including Cannondale. So I thought that was interesting. The company that invented press fit are going back to threaded, which is a step forward because press fit are a pain in the ass and threaded is a simple solution that works. So well done, Cannondale. Every now and then you've got to accept defeat, I guess. Now, the Global Triathlon Awards were just on, so it's its first year that this has been on. And how does it work? It is supported by the PTO. It is also supported by Super League and World Triathlon. So those three get together and decide who is the best triathlete of the year. Now, what's interesting is Ironman aren't in that. So Ironman weren't one of the organisations that were involved with the selection criteria. So what does that say? I don't know. That's Ironman for you. They tend to be left field and just do their own thing. But it'd be nice if they came on board, I reckon. But anyway, it's all about who is the best male and female triathlete. So here it is. Best male triathlete of the year, Gustav Iden. So that's pretty cool. The Blumenfeld would have been your other option there, but Gustav, male triathlete of the year. And in the girls, it was Flora Duffy, so I completely agree with that. So interesting that the three organisations, none of them are a long distance organisation, yet Gustav Iden, as a long distance triathlete, won male triathlete of the year. So good on you guys, well done, and I agree completely with those selections. So the UCI, which is the governing body for cycling, have just scrapped junior gearing. Now, what does that mean? So if you were a kid getting into cycling, you had restricted gears. In other words, these kids would be spinning really, really fast. And the point of it was to teach them how to spin instead of just pushing heavy gears. You've probably noticed new cyclists get in this bad habit of just grinding big gears. So I think that was the point of limiting their gears, so they were forced to spin, but they've scrapped it. So after 1,000 years, give or take, they no longer do that. So I thought that was a really good point. And do I agree with it? Yeah, I think so. Because I remember when I used to do crit racing, say in B grade, and you have these fast little juniors there who would just wind out of gears. If we're doing 50k an hour, they just didn't have the gear to stay on top of it. So it wasn't how good they were, it was their gearing. So that's just been announced. So good on you, UCI. Okay, so Jan Frodeno, everyone's favourite triathlete. So a couple of points on him. First of all, post-injury, he's running again. He's actually here in Australia at the moment, in Noosa, with his Australian wife, Emma Snowsill, who we all love. Australia's only gold medalist at the Olympics. And he's running about 70k a week. So if that's just easing back into running, God, 70k a week, that's per month for me. So he's here, he's back running. So that's the first point. So he's really going to have a crack at getting back into racing. But my question is, will Jan Frodeno win the World Championships? He'll be 42, I think, and it's in Nice this year. So maybe he was one of these athletes where the hot weather suited him. But will he win? What do you reckon? Yes or no? I'm going to say no. I don't think he will. If you watch this, Jan, sorry, mate, but I think the younger generation have just got the speed over him now. Remember, he hasn't done Ironman World Champs since 2019, so 2023. So it's 4 years later, and he's on the wrong side of 40 now. So anyway, tell me what you reckon. Do you reckon he'll win Nice? Maybe? I don't think so. Okay, my last point. So bucket list triathlons. So I had a list of my bucket list triathlons, and I've pretty well done most of them. And the ones for me always was Wildflower in California. Google it if you haven't heard of it. Now, it is a fantastic race, and I did it. I lived in California for a year, so it was about 11 years ago now, I think. I did that race, and it's a brilliant, brilliant race. It's like they used to call it the Woodstock of triathlon. So excellent. If you're in America particularly, go do it. It's an awesome event. So I managed to do that one. As you know, I do off-road triathlon, and I years ago saw a video on Xterra Saipan. Now, Saipan's this little island near Guam. So it's the middle of nowhere, and I just saw this race and thought, shit, I've got to give that a crack. And I did it, and it was a really hard race. Probably one of the hardest races I've done. But I did manage to do that also. Xterra World Championships in Maui, although they're no longer there now, but I did both courses. So I went in 2008 and I went again in 2014, and they changed from one side of Maui to the other side. So I managed to do both courses. And in Australia, I did Julia Creek. So it used to be called the Dirt and Dust Triathlon. Amanda and I did that together, but they've scrapped it, which is a shame. We actually did the last year, which was just a fluke. Out Western Queensland in the middle of nowhere, and they had this annual event. So really good race. I love it. And what's yours? What is your bucket list race or races? Let me know. I did forget something actually, is Tyre Pressure. We're all running to higher pressure. So there's this Tyre Pressure calculator. So you need to Google SRAM Tyre Pressure Calculator. And it brings up this calculator, and you put in all your information. So for me, I'm about 80 kilos at the moment, which I don't want to be, but I am. And I run 28mm tyres. And what it recommends for me is 70 PSI. I've been running 80. So I'm going to give it a crack. So what tyre pressure is really important. It can affect how fast you roll, cornering, how comfortable it is on the road surface and all the rest of it. So check it out, because I bet you we're all running too high a pressure. I am. I'm going to try 70 as of next ride, and let's see how it goes. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me. See you next week.